MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. We begin with breaking news. After a shooting in Crow Agency that severely injured one man, the Bighorn County attorney has some strong words about drug and crime problems and what residents can do to protect themselves. Now, all we know about the shooting suspect is that he's a convicted felon and is currently on the state of Montana Department of Corrections supervision. He remains at large and should be considered armed and dangerous. Local area law enforcement agencies are actively pursuing leads related to the suspect, who is only described as a Native American male in his early 30s, just under 6 feet tall, with a medium build and several visible tattoos. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Bureau of Indian Affairs at 638-2631 or the Bighorn County Sheriff at 665-9780. And Bighorn County Attorney Jay Harris releasing a strong statement tonight on the growing drug problem in the area, saying, quote, "For the present time, and at least until more effective efforts are made by law enforcement, any county citizen brandishing a firearm in apparent defense of their property shall enjoy deference as a matter of law due to the constant scourge that drug-addicted punks present to our community," end quote. Meanwhile, in Rosebud County, 3 people are under arrest and a deputy had to be transported to the hospital after a chase. The Rosebud County Sheriff's Office posted these pictures on its Facebook page tonight. Sheriff Ellen Fulton says the 3 were suspected of stealing a pickup, burglarizing a residence, stealing gas, then making a run from deputies. Several other agencies assisted in the effort. The sheriff says the deputy was transported as a precaution and is expected to be all right. Illicit sex and human trafficking businesses disguised as massage therapy businesses. These highly sophisticated crime rings have finagled a way to hijack a legitimate industry and stay in business. Experts estimate there are about 9,000 of these nationwide. Local authorities tell Q2 at least a dozen of them are right here in Billings. Tonight, Q2's Janelle Slade takes a closer look at a local struggle between legitimate business professionals and the city's efforts to fight crime.
In an effort to stop human trafficking and run prostitution businesses out of town, Billings has been discussing, debating, and redrafting a local business ordinance for 3 years. Specifically, it targets businesses that provide massage.
They want to go after the brothels and the illegal massage businesses, and we understand that, but they're going through our profession to do it. The language in the ordinance is very offensive. It classifies us as adult entertainment, and we're not. We're healthcare professionals.
Jennifer Roth is a licensed massage therapist. She's practiced for 14 years and has more than 250 clients. She, like many massage therapists, do not want or appreciate prostitution or sex language tied to their legitimate profession. But the proposed city ordinance to stop human trafficking uses phrases like this: "It shall be unlawful to massage in a manner intended to arouse. Clothing shall not expose the employee's genitalia. Businesses should not use or possess adult-oriented merchandise of a sexual nature, or businesses should not permit any person to engage in any sexual conduct for compensation."
We already know not to rub in a sexual manner, to wear appropriate clothing during our sessions, to not expose your genitalia. I mean, that's not what we do.
Why now do we have to have a dress code? Why can I not lock my doors? Why can I not close the curtains? Why do I have to tell you as a city council when my hours of operation are?
If the ordinance passes as is, solo practitioners would be exempt, but other businesses who offer massage for a primary service would need to fill out their history, turn over their financials, and complete a background check and fingerprinting to get their business license.
I'm not opposed to doing fingerprints. I'm not opposed to doing a background check, but again, why are we singled out? Why are we the only ones that have to do that for the city of Billings?
For the city to require anything more of massage therapists than they do for any other business is discrimination.
These local massage therapists say they weren't brought to the table to even discuss the proposed ordinance that's meant to regulate their industry. They've since addressed City Council, offered up alternate ordinance language, and created this video addressing key frustrations and concerns.
We have had people enter our office high on drugs, wanting to use the phone, use our restroom. It's not safe for us. We have to have the door locked.
Billings City Administrator Chris Kukulski says the city has been listening to those in the industry, and there have been numerous revisions. And as the Billings crime rate has doubled in the last 10 years, he says the city needs to look at alternative ways to crack down on criminals.
This is a different bar than reasonable suspicion. If you don't have your business license or you're not following the rules, we can take away your business license and you can't legally operate in the city. But it's also, we've learned that from other communities, that an ordinance like this can in fact shut them down much more efficiently, much more effectively.
The big thing is it's going to separate what is an illicit business disguised as massage from a legitimate business that's engaged in massage therapy, and makes that delineation actually now in law, where they can't really hide behind that anymore.
The proposed Billings ordinance is based off of an ordinance in Aurora, Colorado. Trevor Vaughn says 3 years ago his city was plagued with at least 20 sex trafficking businesses disguised as massage businesses. And now he says there are none.
It's been very effective, if not completely effective on that.
Vaughn says Aurora authorities used to conduct resource-intensive, highly expensive stings. And even if a business got shut down, another one just moved in. Both Vaughn and Kukulski say they know and understand this type of ordinance adds an extra burden to legitimate businesses. But they say they've streamlined the regulations to impact as few as possible.
And we set the rules up to be that the legitimate businesses are already in compliance.
I understand why they're trying to vet out the businesses, but criminals are going to lie.
How many other changes, how many other ordinances, how many other laws, how many other fees are going to fall behind this one?
Kukulski says if enacted, the ordinance must be enforced to work. Then he thinks it should take 12 to 18 months to see a difference.
If it fails and it doesn't work, then we should take it off the books. But if it's effective, then I think this is absolutely worth trying. Ultimately, it is about removing that illegal activity, period.
In Billings, Janelle Slade, MTN News.
Thanks, Janelle. And Kukulski says for the first 12 months, the city fee for the massage business license will be $25. That pays the state for the one-time fingerprint background check. After that, the fee will remain the same as all other business tax fees of $55. City Council will consider this ordinance under first reading next Monday, April 12th. And some of those in the massage industry had a chance to hear from the city and ask questions tonight. City leaders explained the latest draft for the license ordinance to combat human trafficking. Questions came up about the hours of operation and privacy with regard to customer and financial records. And the city administrator said the reason for the ordinance is not to hurt businesses, but to stop violent crime.
We certainly consider human trafficking and some of the illicit operations to be in that violent crime category. What are we about here? We're about improving the safety of Billings. This is no silver bullet. It's one of many pieces.
Legitimate businesses are not being targeted here. We want to reassure you that these kind of violations aren't going to be cited. We're not just out to ticket the legitimate businesses. You are providing a valuable service.
Chris Kukulski said he appreciated the civility of the conversation and the questions. About 35 people attended that Zoom meeting. We've got the latest developing news this evening in the case of two East Helena brothers charged in connection with the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Joshua and Jared Hughes have been granted pretrial release on their own recognizance. According to federal court records, they will be released into the high-intensity supervision program. Prosecutors say the Hughes brothers were among the first 10 rioters to enter the Capitol building, took part in the confrontation with Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman, and went through the desks on the Senate floor. The brothers faced 9 charges, including obstruction of an official proceeding and entering the Capitol with the intent to disrupt official business. Both men have pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. And a man who admits that he shot a Billings convenience store clerk in the arm during a 2019 robbery now headed to federal prison for nearly 19 years. 37-year-old Darren Samuel Whiteman, a transient, pleaded guilty to robbery and firearms charges in November of 2020. A witness identified Whiteman as the man who entered the Gas and Go at 800 Jackson Avenue on November 24, 2019, demanded money and shot the clerk. Whiteman was arrested a month later after a 4-hour standoff with law enforcement at a trailer court on Maloney Lane. Judge Susan Waters sentenced Whiteman to 18 years and 9 months in prison and another 5 years supervised release. Well, the lack of affordable housing is a problem affecting more and more communities all across Montana, and the problem is not escaping the attention of the state legislature. In the second part of our two-part series on the issue, MTN's Mike Dennison tells us how majority Republicans believe a big part of the solution is easing restrictive zoning and subdivision laws.
As housing costs escalate across Montana, in cities big and small, just about everyone agrees on one point. There's a severe shortage of available homes and apartments. For Republicans at the legislature, that means looking for ways to accelerate the supply, including at least a half dozen bills to restrict or roll back zoning or other local rules for builders and land developers.
I think we're getting a little bit overreach on a lot of those different zones. Zoning was set up to promote safety, health, and public welfare. Now it's kind of being used to basically separate people at times by economic status.
Senator Hertz sponsored a bill to restrict local zoning on accessory dwelling units, which are apartments within homes or smaller units on lots that already have homes. But that bill, strongly opposed by cities, died last week. Yet he also has a bill to narrow the scope of local review for housing subdivisions. GOP lawmakers are advancing other proposals as well. One would stop Missoula from requiring developers to set aside some agricultural soil. Another would allow more sewage content and groundwater for some housing. And another says counties cannot require minimum lot sizes in certain subdivisions. The former head of the Montana Association of Planners agrees that zoning and land use laws could be more flexible to allow different types of housing, but he questions whether these changes will lead to a building boom or more affordable homes.
Housing is such a challenging, very complicated issue, and there are so many factors that go into it beyond local government policy and regulation. I don't think the reforms that we're seeing will do much to increase the supply of housing.
An attorney for a leading environmental group, which opposes the bills, says they're primarily to benefit builders, not those looking for affordable homes.
What they're trying to do is make it easier for developers to put up houses as fast as possible. There's no guarantee that they're going to pass any cost savings on to consumers.
Yet there is one bill supported by developers, realtors, local governments, and planners to streamline the review of certain subdivisions.
Hey, if you've done the growth policy, you've got zoning in place, you have sewer, water, you say this is where you want to grow, we're going to speed that process up for you.
The current legislature also likely won't be the end of this discussion. Senator Hertz says lawmakers may study local housing rules over the next 18 months and come back with a proposed overhaul in 2 years. Many of these bills are likely to pass and become law, perhaps giving us a mini preview of what comes next. In the meantime, however, it doesn't look like housing prices are getting any cheaper. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. People from around America recently converged in Havre as Montana's premier cattle genetics were put on display. We're going to take you there. Plus, we'll take flight as a Zoo Montana eyesore is now set for a near $1 million makeover. We'll get a sneak peek at the new waterfowl refuge.